welcome in or welcome back. I just wanted to take a minute to reflect actually on Ahsoka Balance of Truth Book 1. The other two are finished. They are both on AO3, Archive of Our Own. That was really a blast. And then narrating really pointed out all the flaws in that Book 1. I'm going to be going through that again with the editor and then reposting that to the Facebook page for the group. The link will be below for that group itself. But just on book 1 itself, I mean, I didn't even know where that story was going to end up going initially. I mean, there was outlines and drafts for furthering the project, but I think once you get through something like that and you realize that you can actually write a book, I mean, it's flawed, of course, really rough around the edges, and I'm sure that kind of came out with the narrations. I'll get to that in a little bit. I do want to continue with those with the other books, but I'm working on some different things to kind of present it as more of a story rather than me just reading from my phone, of all things. Just a little bit about me, though. I've been a machinist for 30 years, and if anybody has been in that kind of a setting, you know that you spend a lot of time in your head. And that's where I've been for the last, 3 decades, really. What do I got set up here? A separation of practical knowledge and imagination. And that's really what you fall into after about the first 5 or 6 years of doing something like that. You know what you're doing on the machines, certain sounds that you listen for, and when everything's running fine, all you have is your brain. You can't really go anywhere, so you start imagining things, and those imaginations, they grew into wild dreams and fantasies, and Star Wars has always been that outlet. So that's where I went, and like I said, it took the whole project took about 4 years from start to finish, but that first book probably took 2.5 years of that. So much self-doubt involved, but like I said, as soon as you get to that final chapter and you type out the end, there's just something that clicks. And for all those people that said that you couldn't do it, you just proved them all wrong. So then I started typing out the first few chapters of book 2, and that identifiability, when you really start fleshing out the characters themselves, and I know with Ahsoka there's so much already written, there's so much on the screens. I kind of did I handled her character from a different perspective, and I think through the Clone Wars, specifically, we saw a lot of her emotions, and I really wanted to explore that aspect of things, especially after the World Between Worlds, when she and Ezra escaped from there. That's really what started this whole thing to begin with. But what could she possibly be feeling? After absolutely identifying that Vader was Anakin. Where do you go from there? How do you take that? And that first book was all about that, her ups and downs in trying to negotiate that. So, I mean, on the story itself, then, where does this differ in my mind? Where did this story differ from being just a what if as opposed to plausibility? when I decided to do this, there's a lot of research involved as far as timelines and whatnot. So that first book takes place during A New Hope, and there's where the what if becomes a plausibility in my mind, that the events that took place in that first book would coincide almost flawlessly. There was a couple errors in there, and I'm sure if anybody sees these in the future or listens to those narrations, you'll find them. But hopefully I'll have it edited and redone at some point, so that isn't an issue. I'm not calling this canon. I'm not going to call it headcanon. It just is what it is. So it's a dramatic what if, but a plausible one. I think a lot of times when people do write those what ifs, they can be quite creative. I will give them that. And I guess I'd like to, I'd like to know if people would consider what I've written creative in a way. But I'd love it if it was also plausible. But how do you do that with established characters? Now, Ahsoka, and as we'll get into with book 2, Sabine primarily, and the Ghost Crew. The only way to tell their stories, in my opinion, is with original characters, which is what I started doing in the first one, and kind of borrowed from Ahsoka's past. And you'll see that primarily in book 2, in her novel by E.K. Johnston. How did we get here? Yeah, it was the next point I wanted to make, is how did we get here? Like at the end of the book, which kind of stands by itself, but book 2 will start like 3 months. Wow, I don't even remember now. 3 to 6 months after book 1. So there is that timeline to parse things, and that's essentially where Ahsoka and Kawani would meet the Ghost Crew on Lothal. A little bit of downtime or whatever there, but at some point I'd like to write a short story reflecting that. Man, there's so much else. A lot of, I guess we can go back to what ifs, the plausibilities of what ifs. And especially, I didn't want to, you'll just see in book 2 once I get to that. And about that, I wanted to mention this earlier, or I alluded to it, was I want to continue with the narrations, like going to book 2 here pretty soon. But I'm playing around with different voiceovers and all that kind of stuff, just so it's not just my voice, all this monotony. I know I can have a hard time with that, but about another week I'll start those and get back to it. That book is, oh man, probably a third longer than the first one. That third book, it's my favorite, but I'm not looking forward to narrating that one. It's a very long book. That one should have been 2. But there's so much involved in it, and I think anything that involves Ahsoka is going to involve many other characters or pieces on the game board. But as things stand now, kind of at a crossroads, and not in a bad way. It's just multiple projects. So it's all on our own time. I mean, the time that we make for our hobbies. Where am I going with this? So the first trilogy's in the books. Well, it's finished and online. Again, I'll put the links down below. This has also spawned at least another book. Now, I've said in the past I can probably get another trilogy out of it, and to be honest with you, I could probably get 2 more out of the dearth of story that's in my head. and written down in multiple notebooks. But this is also, as we'll get into book 2, I know I keep making these references, and it's really what's prompting me to get back to the narrations just so we can get into book 2. That there's going to be notable references and or usage of Legends characters in a side book that I'd really love to write about. Would be right at the tail end of the Darth Bane trilogy, when we're not quite sure if Darth Bane has succeeded or not, or if it's truly Xana. But so much story, I think, there, and it would be an honor to write that. And on that note, I am trying to get a hold of Lucasfilm as far as what their publishing policies are, as I've run into a dead end as far as trying to get things out in the normal way. So I'm trying some end rounds. We'll see what happens with that. But if not, I'm just gonna write them anyway and keep going to AO3 and those sort of platforms just to get the stories out there. Make them available on the Facebook group for sure for anybody interested. But just that general knowledge has prompted me to go in other directions too with different projects. Original, one of which I've got the first short book out. It's actually on Amazon. Kindle. The Kindle copy is available now, and paperback will be at the end of the month. I don't know about pricing these things at all. I mean, it's just on there for the bare minimums. I'm not looking at royalties. I'm just looking at getting the name out there and the stories themselves. So the first solo original project outside of Star Wars universe is Acari Odo'Mae, and I'll have that up on the screen here, and also have the link for that in the description. Definitely sci-fi, and if you're into that, and trying to get a lot more technical with space travel itself, but also what those different technologies could present. Well, I'll have you look at the Kindle thing for it. Wow. And I don't know, you can make up your own mind if that's your genre or whatever. Yeah. But, just to let you know, I haven't gone anywhere. Just been really busy with the side projects. And, I mean, there's multiple more. It's not just that Acari Odo'Mae or trying to figure out what I'm doing with Star Wars writing. But we'll see what the future presents. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep at it because I enjoy it. I know I'm supposed to ask for a subscribe and a like and all that stuff, but that's totally on you. If you want to. I didn't start this to get likes. I didn't start this for subscriptions. And for the 2 new ones that I have gotten since starting this 2 months ago, I really appreciate that. Like I said, I will be continuing to put things up. Just wanted to give anybody that's interested just a little heads up on what's coming. And yeah, we'll see where we go. Well, thank you very much. Have a good night.